Hey everyone, welcome to today's Master's Minute. I'm Amy Gernot, one of your guides in the Masters to Wholeness program. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about happiness and gratitude. Now, I want to preface this a minute before I get into those two things, because when we start talking about happiness and gratitude, there's kind of the underlying feeling culturally and especially in the spiritual world that if we're not happy all the time, then there's something wrong with us. We're broken. We're not spiritual enough. We're just not enough because we should be this happy person all of the time. And kind of as I was talking about with the last video that I did on living the inspired life and the threads of inspiration, it's the same thing in the spectrum of emotion. So there's a spectrum of it. And as human beings, we are literally wired to be emotional creatures. So we're wired to experience all threads of emotion, all variances of emotion. And we're not really meant to be in this one frame the whole time. You can kind of think of, if you think of someone who's just really happy all the time and don't show any kind of variance in it, like a subtle happy or a really, really happy, if they're just really, really happy all the time, it'll be kind of uncomfortable because it's going to feel a bit manic and it's not necessarily going to feel authentic, because we feel like we need to be there all the time in order to be enough and to be worthy. Especially in the spiritual world, I see this a lot, and it's not a judgment on where we're trying to be. We want to really feel that way. It's human nature to want to be in pleasure and feel good, but there's just more of a variance to that. So when we talk about happiness and cultivating gratitude, again, there's a spectrum of it. So if you think of a spectrum of happiness, like the high end would be that just pure joy and bliss and just ecstatic excitement. That is what I would consider that, like the high end of happiness. And then you slope down in like the lower end of the happiness, and not that it's better or worse, because nothing is. Everything is all good and bad. So if you get down to the lower spectrum, I kind of think of that as more like contentment and satisfaction. And there's just like there's an ease to it. There's an ebb and a flow. There's a fluidness to that contentment and that satisfaction. So there's this kind of spectrum of being happy. And all of that spectrum is important. It's important for us to be able to allow ourselves to feel along that whole line, as opposed to feeling like we have to be here or we have to be here. And that's the only way that we can that we're really truly being happy. And happiness is different for everybody. What makes one person happy is not going to be the same as what makes another person happy. So even our individual definitions are very different. And that is what makes us so incredibly unique and amazing. That just this one word can have so many different meanings to it. So gratitude, I also kind of feel, is like gratitude's almost kind of like the thread within happiness all the way across. So it's kind of like it threads the entire spectrum. And the beautiful thing about gratitude is that we can almost all, no matter what state we're in, even if we're feeling kind of down in the dumps, we're feeling depressed, or we're feeling angry, whatever it might be, if we take a few moments, we can almost always find one thing we're grateful for. Sometimes it's hard to bring up like the feeling of happiness, because again, we have this idea that this big thing up here is the only way that we feel happy. So sometimes it's hard to find that and bring that online. But we can almost always sit down and find something to be grateful for. And the most amazing thing is when you find some things to be grateful for, and when you can identify those things that you're grateful for, and you make a practice of it by doing it a little bit every day. Maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's before you go to bed, maybe you just think it, maybe you write it down, maybe you have a conversation with a friend or a family member about something that you're grateful for. There's actually a physiological change in the body. So it can take you from a state of stress, which is releasing a cascade of stress chemicals in the body, which in a chronic level, those cascade of chemicals are actually very inflammatory, and they can cause disruption of energy flow. They can cause disease in the body. But when we can focus every day, even if it's just for a moment, even if that's all you've got, if you're just like in one of those days where you just can't get out of bed, but you can sit and think of one thing you're grateful for, you trigger just a little bit of those happiness chemicals. And so you get a little bit of a switch, even in the brain. We're signaling different neurotransmitters to come online. Dopamine and serotonin are released when we think of something that we're grateful for. So we actually get a physiological shift in the brain, which is a cascade of chemicals into the body. So just those couple of moments, even if that's all you've got today, even if it's just a couple of moments to find something that you're grateful for, you change your body. And when you change your body, you change your mind, you change your spirit, you change all the health, the whole spectrum, the wholeness of us, body, mind, spirit. We change it all. So just those few moments. So instead of trying to find ways to be super, super happy, find yourself along the spectrum. Where are you? Are you content, satisfied? Or do you just find a thread of gratitude somewhere? Because a thread of gratitude, when you focus a little bit on it every single day, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger until you don't have as much fraying in that line. It starts to solidify, it starts to come together, and it starts to weave together this beautiful spectrum of happiness. And that spectrum that you get to lie in, whatever place it is that you want to be. So I hope that was helpful for you today. So find your threads of gratitude today. Start building those new neural pathways in the brain and let those cascade of chemicals flood through. And it's going to improve your health. It's going to improve your outlook. It's going to improve the way you think, the way you feel, and how much you can love yourself and how much you can love others. So I hope that was helpful. Talk to you soon. Bye.